Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the afternoon session. And we will begin this session with a panel discussion on the topic of trade and investment linkage, CLMVT, and beyond. I believe our panelists are now ready to express their insights and experiences on how the region will be a magnet in terms of trade and investment for investors from around the world. So without further ado, I'd like to warmly welcome to the stage our panelists, Mr. Chetan Arun Narake, CEO of Chandragan Group of India. A big round of applause, please. Mr. Douglas Fu, President of Singapore Manufacturing Federation. Mr. Jareeporn Jarukornsakul, Chairman of Group, CEO of WHA Corporation Public Company Limited from Thailand. A big round of applause, please. And last but not least, Mr. Wiedmann, Chairman and CEO of BMW Group Thailand Company Limited. And also, ladies and gentlemen, our moderator for this session is Dr. Kirida Bhaopichitr, Director of Economic Intelligence Service at Thailand Development Research Institute, or TDRI. All right, now our panelists and our moderator are ready on the stage, so please take it away.
Thank you very much, Pinhani. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed the delicious lunch that was served. We have a very exciting panel today. I'm very honored to be here with them. I've read all their CVs very carefully, and I am very impressed because here you have four very distinguished panelists who have experiences not only in CLMVT, but also in other parts of the world. So it's very fortunate that we have all four of them here talking about the trade and investment linkage, which has to do a lot with the supply chains of CLMVT and also linking CLMVT to the rest of the world, which we have heard in the morning that it's a growth engine for CLMVT. We still have a lot of challenges that we will have to overcome, but there are lots of opportunities that lie ahead of us as well. So in this session, which we will go on until around 3 p.m., we will have a Q&A session, so please be prepared with questions if you have. I'll leave the last 20 minutes to half an hour for Q&A. But what we'll do here is, because we have panelists coming from various sectors with very diverse experiences, which will be very valuable to share with us. So what have I've asked the panelists to do is to help shed light on three areas for us. One is how do they see the future of supply chains in CLMVT, which has to do with trade and investments as well. And so if we see these future with opportunities, what are the challenges that still remains? Right? And lastly, we'll talk about how do we overcome those challenges, either from the private sector or from coordination with the government. And these will be views from those actually on the ground, right? The private sector representatives who are actually doing business here in CLMVT and also linking CLMVT to the world. So with that, I'd like to start with Douglas. So Douglas is actually the president of the Singapore Manufacturing Association, but he's also a member of the parliament, and you can look at his CV in the pamphlet that was given to you, and you know that Douglas's experiences are also much beyond Singapore and the region. So, as being in the Manufacturing Association of Singapore, what are your views of the future supply chain of CLMVT? How do you see it? What are the opportunities?
Well, thank you, Doctor. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to learning and connecting with more of the distinguished panels and the audience later. Maybe give me a bit of time to actually take the perspective from the Singapore Manufacturing Federation. The Singapore Manufacturing Federation was set up in 1932. Wow. So that was before Singapore gained independence. And at that time, on this small little island, there were a few people that decided that there is a possibility of building a manufacturing industry, and even a manufacturing hub. So we essentially have actually seen the nation building in Singapore. Many years we actually had Ford manufacturing cars in Singapore. Then we move on to do household appliances. And fast forward to today, In the last few years, we had a committee for future economy having a discussion on what the Singapore economy construct would be like. And the final decision, the final report that came out from that committee of future economy reiterate a 20% contribution from the manufacturing sector. And in Singapore, we have very limited land, very limited labor, which are really the two important factors of production for any manufacturing activity. The third component is capital, which we are a bit more blessed. People put some money there, so we got access to the capital. So then what does Singapore Manufacturing Federation entails to go forward to help? So we had a whole rethink about the future of manufacturing. And the conclusion from that discussion is we should have a conversation and we should build collaboration and using the whole ASEAN as our manufacturing hub. Because the 10 different countries at 10 different stages of development actually create both a challenge but also an advantage, because various components of any products could be competitively built in the different areas, in the different economic zones. So therein lies the opportunity of going back to your own business model and start looking at how do you innovate from business model. And about 8 years ago, we started helping our enterprise to go on this journey on business model innovation. The business model that has actually worked for many years, for many companies in many countries are now being disrupted very quickly. And so you see that there are a lot of new companies that are less than 10 years old, or few years old, that are reaching billion market cap, which in the history, you have never seen that happening. It takes time to really build up the whole blocks. But all these are now evolving and changing. So the whole ASEAN, going to become the 4th largest economy by 2030, creates a huge opportunity. And it is just going to be in the next 10 years. Either you watch it happen, or you participate actively in it. So, as far as Singapore Manufacturing Federation is concerned, we are encouraging our enterprise. So, for example, in Thailand, we built very close relation with Federation of Thai Industries. We are going to have some joint mission to do some joint work on helping our companies go to other countries together, helping our SMEs connect with each other. Because at the end of the day, as what the Prime Minister has mentioned today, is the SMEs and the micro SMEs that needs help. And it is only that much bandwidth that any government machinery could do, but the trade association chambers like Singapore Manufacturing Federation, Federation of Thai Industries, Vietnam Chamber of Commerce have to play the active role of helping and actually create the platform. And beyond just creating the awareness, we are actually helping our companies to go on the implementation path. So this whole journey on the Industrial 4.0 is about how do we assess using digital technology to enable the various production facility to use data so that we can produce much more effectively and prevent more wastage. Because at the end of the day, the whole Industrial 4.0 requires all. It doesn't. A lot of times people think that I need to invest in huge machinery, I got to change. But actually, sometimes it just requires you to collect data from your factory and actually connecting to the demand side so that you could actually utilize that optimally. So one of the projects that we are doing is manufacturing as a service, because a lot of production facilities in CLMVT or even beyond are not at its optimal. You usually build bigger capacity than you require. But imagine if those excess capacity could be utilized by others, whether it's a startup or whether it's other enterprises that require those components, it is win-win for both. at the end of the day. And it's actually win-win for all mankind because we're not wasting resources. Because at the end of the day, all these require energy to run, all these require people to start building. And that leads to the next stage where we need to build up the whole talent pool and make sure that beyond just the enterprise being innovative in building their business model, the people, the workforce have got to continue on their lifelong learning and continue to build those capability that is required from the enterprise. So very often, enterprise have not been in the thick of training, unlike in the Europe, where you have a lot of vocational, they have the traineeship program. So over this region, I think we need to start having a more active role from the trade association chambers to take a stake in building the future workforce and building capabilities and continue retraining those capabilities to make sure that it is piped into the future economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Douglas, for sharing that, that view of that, the importance of having a new business model innovation, developing a talent pool, because the world is changing so quickly with technological disruptions, with new trade rules and the trade war that's still happening. So there's a lot that companies, especially SMEs, would have to adjust and develop under the supply chains here. But Douglas, just to ask you, in your view, as a Singapore Manufacturing Association, what businesses or what sectors or what industries do you see as being the up and coming industries for the supply chain production in CLMVT? Are there any that you see?
Well, for a start, anything that do with lifestyle and the needs of the 600 over million, which is half of China, consumer market has got a good potential because it's got a very young middle class that is upcoming. So any of those areas, and they will come in a lot of shapes and sizes because of the new collaborative model. So if some years back people say that, we are going to start a transportation business, but we will not have a car. We will not buy cars because there are many cars around. So what we do is we have a platform where people demand a ride on the car, and people who are driving cars have got a certain amount of free time. They can just bring the person from point A to point B. And that has created many of these platform business that are really big and using data. And if some years back people tell you that we will start an accommodation business, but we are not going to own a room, we're not going to build a building, how do you do that? It's impossible. But today, all those are all possible. So today, the digital has actually created much close, knitted economy all over the world. Because last time when you produce something, you're always constrained by your geographical. You'll probably be in your own village and your own sectorial. But today, if you know how to use your digital platform well, people from very far could know about it. People can actually access to it as well. And with those information that you can get on that digital platform, you can do wonders. And that's why yesterday when Professor Kishore talked about the challenges in ASEAN, he also spoke about the opportunities right now. Because while that opportunity of challenge is happening, as long as ASEAN remain united, centrality, and using the digital to our advantage, the sky's the limit.
Thank you. Digital technology, e-commerce opens, a whole, new world of markets to all of us. So that's a very, very promising and new opportunity that came. I was hoping, Douglas, that you would say one of the up-and-coming, supply chain industries is the automotive industry. But here we have Christian, who's the president and CEO of BMW Thailand, who can tell us more about the supply chains, of automotive industry, in our region, and also maybe link it to the world, because I know you have experience in Europe as well, so you might be able to share some of that experience with us as well. So, I'd like to hear your views as well, Christian, on how do you see the future of supply chains, especially in the car industry here, given that electric vehicles are coming, and would that really disrupt the supply chain of auto parts and automobile production in this region?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Kirida, and let me just express again that it's an honor to be here today together with the panelists to share some of our thoughts of the fast-changing pace of change in our industries here within the region. And especially I really like your introduction because normally I'm being asked to come here on stage to represent the old industry, the traditional industry. And I kind of find that always to be a little bit short-sighted because sincerely believe that I am in the most exciting industrial sector that you can be in at the moment, because it's not just one sector. It's not the production sector anymore. Our industry has moved completely cross-sectoral in the last couple of years, more so than it has ever been before. We are now, of course, still a traditional production company, but we have moved over into logistics, power, digital and service industries, which are significantly impacting the development of the automotive industry and where it is going towards. Our industry, many of you have read about it, so I wouldn't want to bore you necessarily, but it is transforming fundamentally, and that transformation is basically happening under the two subheadings, one being decarbonization, and the second one probably is digitalization / services that come with the digitalization. So when we look at the topic of decarbonization, here we are, of course, seeing that in the last 30 years, the automotive industry all through the world has really been working on reducing emissions in our traditional combustion engine technology. And also going into hybrid technologies, but still remaining within combustion engine as the fundamental power source. And now we are seeing this technology, of course, moving into much more modern forms of hybrid technology, which is the plug-in hybrid, real engine performance coming out of electricity, and then going towards BEV, fully electric vehicles into the future as well. And here, of course, we are now, as a traditional player in this field, trying to cover all three fields of technological development. So the old combustion engine, then the transitionary technology, which is plug-in hybrid, towards full electrification. And this has a lot of challenges, but I think opportunities for a lot of suppliers, actually, that are in this field servicing towards the automotive sector as well. Then on the other side, we have digitalization. And with digitalization here, really, it is the connected life in or with the car. Nowadays, your car sends signals to our service centers. We know where the car is in its service life. We can interact with the passenger, mainly also on air, basically, in terms of fixing issues that might be abound. And going towards the future, it will really fundamentally change the way that we are producing cars, that we're distributing the cars, selling them, and then servicing the cars to the customer. And the customer will find a different lifestyle and is expecting a different lifestyle in the car. So a lot of change across various sectors, as I mentioned, and in terms of maybe just to make it practical for BMW. BMW in 2013, we started with our first fully electric car, which is the BMW i3. It was the first one really in this field, opening this avenue of technology. And by the end of next year, by the end of 2021 more particularly, we will have 5 fully electric vehicles on the streets. But already now we are having many of our models being powered also by plug-in hybrid technologies. And by 2021, the BMW Group will have 25 electrified vehicles in our portfolio. That is a tremendous shift happening there. In terms of digitalization, for example, now I can speak Thai with my car. My car will answer back in Thai, but okay, that is quite standard happening in the ecosystem inside the car. But the car now also, you can start to deal with your car through your app, through your mobile system. You can see what the statuses are of your cars, etc. And this is just the start, the early start of digitalization into the future. I think the vision is really that depending whether it is sunshine or rain, towards the end of today's session, you should be able to call either a convertible or a sedan vehicle to you, pick you up here autonomously and drive you home. So this will probably be the future that we are driving to. Now, the relevance for our region, CLMVT, with 240 million inhabitants, or the greater ASEAN with 650, is tremendous. With regards to pollution, environment, congestion in the cities, of course, but many of our countries also have a strong automotive industry sitting here, so it is very relevant where this is moving. In terms of trade patterns and opportunities, I'd say let's just turn over the challenges and look at them from opportunities side of view. Douglas already mentioned that one of the key trends of change is that none of this can happen anymore alone. It is cross-sectoral. We need to partner up with many other companies. As BMW, for example, now we are also partnering up with core key competitors in the areas of services. We've announced various joint ventures. So this is a fundamental shift in mindset towards a much more collaborative way of developing industry and technology currently than we've ever had it before. And Douglas, you mentioned that this can be done all over the world. So borderlessness really is, once you have good partnership and collaboration, this can happen anywhere in the world nowadays, which will of course impact production policies of not just the OEMs, but all the suppliers in the network as well. So fundamental changes. Then with regards to electrification, now there's a lot of concern here, but see all of the upsides. We have a completely new industry developing in terms of electric mobility, all of the parts, all of the engines, all of the powers. This is all new. And I think here, of course, the challenge is for some suppliers to switch and to also be able to participate in this switch of industry. But you know, it's going to be very heavy for everyone to do everything. So there is room for new players to enter, to support the supply chain in a variety of different areas within this whole area of electrification, let alone infrastructure. When we look in all of our countries at infrastructure, readiness for electrification and autonomous is really very much still in the beginning stages, both from legislation but also investment point of view. And a lot of future technological opportunities are here for the supply chain to enter into as well. In digital, we see new services coming, new apps developing. Also here, Douglas was running ahead already, was saying that you don't need to own the asset anymore. We will have more shared services happening. This is already a trend happening in Europe and Americas. It will be coming to China, already is in China, and it will come over and spill into our region as well. So here are opportunities really ready for us to pick up. And finally, in the area of education, vocational education really is probably on the forefront. Of course, higher education is something we see developing already now, but we need a stronger push towards vocational education to really build the foundation for R&D opportunities to be able to grow in this region as well. So I would say a lot of challenges, but on the flip side, opportunities.
Lots of opportunities as well. Thank you so much, Christian, for sharing the opportunities with us. So we see that decarbonization and digitalization is really going to transform the auto business in the future. Of course, it's a threat to existing businesses, but it's also there are also opportunities for new products and services, as Christian's mentioned. But just a quick question, I think everybody wants to know as well, the reality of electric vehicles. How soon do you think it will be big in this region? 10 years? 5 years?
Well, I guess this is another really fundamental question you're asking. It's not just a quick one, even though you want to sneak it in. Could talk about that a long time. So there's no dedicated year and date, of course. But I think what we see is that it's happening at very different speeds everywhere throughout the world. And then again, well, this is a challenge if you want to deal with all of it. But if you want to be able to take opportunities, you really can look at different speeds of developments in different areas throughout the world and make benefits of that. And I guess, we can say, if you look at BMW itself, 25 models by 2025, we are expecting worldwide a big segment of that happening. Will it happen at the same speed here? Well, I guess not. I guess that's why we have plug-in hybrid technology as a bridging technology, where nowadays, you really have ranges with plug-in hybrids where you can easily cover your day-to-day big city urban needs. But when you go over up-country, then the infrastructure might not be fully available. And here, the plug-in hybrid is a good bridging technology for a while to stay in certain regions. Yes.
Right. And here in our region, we use a lot of pickup trucks as well. And that would probably not transition to electric as quickly as sedans. Am I correct?
Let's wait and see
Let's
that
wait
space
and
developing.
see. Okay, let's wait and see. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing that. Now, we have talked a lot about manufacturing, and also now that, manufacturing is not only manufacturing, is services embedded as well. So we'd like to also hear from Chetan, who is now the CEO of the Chandragan Group. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. But actually, Chetan has experiences in many multinational companies, in the world. So he was formerly with Mars Food, both human and pet foods.
That's correct.
That's
right. And the chocolate as well.
And chocolate
M&Ms,
as well.
the Snickers, yeah.
And also with Mead Johnson as
That's
well, right? So and he has worked in the U.S. He's worked in Singapore, Thailand, and now you're based in India.
That's correct.
And you're also the advisor to our Thai trade office in Mumbai. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, Chetan knows a lot about, this region and also from, other regions as well. So just wanted to hear your views as well, Chetan. How do you see, what are the opportunities, what businesses do you see are opportunities here, given that you've worked here quite a bit?
I mean, to be honest, from the morning, the panelists as well as from Prime Minister, pretty much we talked about there are many opportunities that exist that we could execute. Probably I will build up a bit on what Douglas said, is, now it's about the execution of it. And who's going to make the difference are the SMEs and the entrepreneurs who are actually getting into this field. With the digital platform, it makes it much easier for anybody to start a company. Of course, Singapore is going to be a gold standard where you can start the company less than 5 minutes. Is that right? Less than 5 minutes, you can start the company. So basically, as Prime Minister said in the morning, that how we can really streamline the processes and making sure that the new entrepreneurs, as well as any cross-border business you have to do, there are clear directions given to them. And trade association, as you mentioned, is going to play a huge role in it. So let me give some examples, which I had done probably a couple of days before and probably my work experience before. I can take an example of Chandragan province, where we are actually working on some of the universities to collaborate with each other. So Burapha University is actually have a joint venture with Battambang University in Cambodia, and there is an exchange program going on. So the way I see it, there is a soft power as well as a hard power. Hard power is a transaction that happens actually in money, but the soft power is where through education, the culture, and the regional beliefs and the value system, that plays that trust which is underlined for any trade to happen. So everybody have talked about the areas where we can actually make the hard transaction, but there is an underlying important thing is the value system, and we cannot undermine that. So we have to make sure we keep that in mind and really use it for the benefit, for the trust that is necessary to develop this trade. So Burapha University, I was mentioning about, have done a joint venture with Battambang University. We work with, another example is we are currently working with DITP as well as with the TAT from India with Chandragan province, where we are trying to bring the Indian filmmakers or the movie makers and have a joint ventures with Chandragan where they can offer lot many places, the hotels, the dance music school over there. They can collaborate and provide the necessary ingredients for making the movies Also, we're talking about exporting, mangosteen from Thailand to India. And the way we are addressing is not going directly to farmers, but we are going through the trade association, as Douglas mentioned. That's the way, because certain things get more complex. You don't need to know everything, but the trade association plays a crucial role that makes the young entrepreneurs as well as the farmers to get things happen very quickly. So now the power is in operation. And that's something we need to execute very well. So Dr. Wasin from Burapha University is doing a fantastic job with Dr. Bichai, who have done a fantastic project with the Prime Minister's office in the past. Probably from my experience in the fast-moving consumer good from Mars or from Med Johnson, when we used to launch a new product in Southeast Asia and overall, some of the markets took us 1 year just to register the product. So what we were looking for, and there are 15 people running the activity management team where they're doing the packaging. They have a different quality standards in terms of how the product should be. So one of the discussion we should consider for the service or the FMCG industries, can we really standardize the quality measures? So, if we can sell it in Malaysia, can we sell it in Myanmar, the same product or not? We should not have that discussion at all, because we should send that quality standards up front, taking that all into consideration. It will save a lot of time for multinational companies as well as for any young entrepreneurs, and makes it easy trade improvement, especially when it comes to food, processed food. Of course, when it comes to fresh food, it becomes a very difficult conversation because you can't control how it grew. But it is coming eventually. But right now, I think so. The low-hanging fruits will be, I would say, food processing, processed food or so. There are a few I would like to point out in terms of shorter term. Is we talked about U.S.-China trade war and how it's going to benefit. So if you can go online and just see the list, there are 354 products, and you can see the tariffs by which is given by China as well as the US, starting from 25 to 5%. And you can quickly point out what are your strengths are and what you can make. I mean, JP Morgan mentioned in the morning what are the real are. So these are the dots which are in the air. Just think about very pragmatically what you can do with what you have versus reinventing the wheel and really deliver what is necessary in the market. So we need to spend a lot of time on planning and really focus on execution. So we have been talked many ideas, not only on this panel, but before as well. But now it's time to really take 2 or 3 really big value-added projects and execute them and show them it works. And that's where the value lies. Because trade improvement is, the underlying assumption is, you need to deliver a value which others can't. So once we really understand where we are delivering the value, now it could be any segments, it could be agriculture, infrastructure, which could be national highway buildings or real estate joint ventures, medical, pharma, where we can specifically talk about the traditional medicines, where Southeast Asia is very prevalent. So if we bring that traditional medicines together, we can do wonders, specifically in the European markets or the US market will go crazy on those. They will go bonkers on it. Because that's something, Ayurveda is something, it comes from here. So if we really work and play on our strengths, the trade is just the byproduct. It will improve, but we really need to understand what the global market looks like, where we are. We need to really understand the sociology, the cultural values, the regulation, the political views, and then really focus on the niche market. We know for sure in the shorter term, we're going to focus on this for 1 to 3 years. And the 5 years down the line, we're potentially going to go for a technology platform, which could be having all medical records on one database, where any hospital you go, potentially you can access any person's, or any patient's record. For example, somebody from China is traveling to Thailand, went and fall down and had hurt his head or something. If the data is connected, they actually have all the data can access in that hospital. So the sky is the limit, but you really need to step down for a second and say, what I can add value? What is the value I'm giving to it? And they will buy it. So it's just a matter of really focusing and gives yourself a time and execute that. Of course, DITP, Ministry of Commerce, is doing a fantastic job, and I've never seen it's happening in India. I mean, I worked 25 years outside, but I think this is fantastic. I mean, they're creating the value by giving this information, accessing this information to the new entrepreneurs like yourself sitting in this room, and they can dream that they can make their business not only domestically, but go internationally. Yeah.
Thank you for that very, practical advice. That we focus on our strength and we see where the demand is. For example, given this trade war, there will be trade diversification, meaning that there will be goods that the U.S. might want to buy from CLMVT more because it's expensive now to buy from China, and same thing with China. They might want to buy certain goods more from CLMVT because it's expensive to buy from the U.S. right now. So there's opportunity there. So I think your suggestion of know your strength and seek out the opportunities is very spot on. So thank you for sharing that view. And we'll come back in round 2 to see more. I know you've highlighted some of the challenges, but we'll come back to what other challenges do you see in order to achieve these opportunities that you have laid out. Now. We have saved the best for last for this round, which is Ms. Jareeporn. I'd like to hear your views as well on how do you see the opportunities for the supply chain. Now you see more investments coming in and so on and so forth. Please.
Thank you, Kirida. Right? Thank you so my friends here. We guys are very familiar together, right? Since for the WCA group, we not manufacturer, right? We don't have car, we have the service, something like this. But we do the business, it's like about the upstream. That's one that's logistic. Industrial estate, that means we are the one that saw or see about a lot of opportunity, or the world change or not. I talked in the public around maybe 8 years ago. The world changed, shift from the western to eastern. Because I saw a lot of fund flow from western to eastern. And also because of our clients, it's all the big corporates around the world. So I'm the first one who list with them and talk with them first. What about their think? What about their investment? Even though what about their strength, their strategy, right? So I follow this a long time ago, right? Something like this, and then just I think a lot about our country, or even CLMV3. The world is changing. Not the same as before, right? We're not advanced like Singapore. We're not big population like in India, right? But if we only alone, Thailand alone, Vietnam alone, or even though for the Cambodia alone, how can we get the benefit from the world changing? Now, this morning the Prime Minister talked about the digital, right? Now we talk about digital economy. We talk a lot about the technology. The least lab trip technology. How can we survive this one? How we can get the most benefit for this change? CLMV3 is like about the center of Asia. You can see the locations, right? Above us, it was a big one, China, right? And the right one, the one is India. Below us, Indonesia. On these 3 countries, their population, I think, has 70% of the world, right? That means they have a lot of big consume, right? But if we go together, wow, a lot of huge opportunity here, right? Can we have some slide? Okay, this one, okay. Here you can see it. If we just look for the CLMV3 compared with Asia and the world, for this year, 2018, our GDP got 8.2%, higher than Asia, even though higher than the world, right? And if you look at the right-hand side, it's about trade. Something export, we have 70%, right? 70% or 9.5% in the year 2018, or import something like this, right? And look at this one. Okay. Now, the world, also you know that the world changed from advanced economics to emerging market, right? And also to the developing country like us altogether. Even so, the GDP growth of the CLMV3 outperform the world. It's very interesting. And now, as you know that we are the global challenge. We talk a lot about trade war. We talk about the disruptive technology. We talk about the global climate change, even though the aging populations. I really like your Douglas said, because Singapore is like really small compared to the size of the country and the population. But he can make the ASEAN the Singapore, right, ministering for their Singapore. This thing, and I talk a lot. I study a lot about Singapore because I amazing that how can Singapore do like this? How can our country can do like Singapore something like this? We talk about the trade tensions. I think that's for the CLMVT, especially Vietnam and Thai, get the benefits from the trade tension for the trade war. These 2 years, I saw a lot of fund for investment from China, especially for Chinese or non-Chinese that invest in China. For the moving from China, not for the trade war only, trade war like catalyst for them to move out. Because of China, GDP loss, they have a big coverage a lot, right? And they expand all around the world in these 10 years. And I just talk a lot of our Chinese partnership, right? Since as you know, we also have the partner with JD.com and collaboration with the Alibaba something. So we talk a lot. And they said their first destination to invest outside China is CLMVT. Because of this, so a lot of labor here, so the good infrastructure, had a lot of room to go, right? So I think that if we can have that tag team together, I always say that's why you need to compete with each other. Because of SWHA, I also invest in other countries. I also have the industrial estate in Vietnam. I also have logistics in Indonesia. I also have the power plant in Laos, right? I saw lots of competition between each other. Why? This world is so small. Why not we share? We share together. We can share resource. We can share labor. We can share about the logistics. We can share about the energy. Right? Since we're in Thailand, you face about the aging society, right? How can we just transfer something to our neighbor, have lower intensive cost than us? How can we we have now Thailand, we try to turn to be the Thailand 4.0. We talk about the industrial 4.0. How can we transfer technology together? Why we need to compete each other? So I think I really like these topics. CLMVT, the new value chain hubs of Asia. If we can do that, if we have the partner together, I think we are the one. We can dominate many things, right? And we can attach for the investor, right? For the technology now, we talk a lot about the e-commerce versus the world is really small right now, right? Why we need to do each country or in each country the corporate try to do the platform by themselves. You can compete with Alibaba. You can be the big giants, Amazon, something like this. But if I try to propose this to the Prime Minister, what about how can we do the e-commerce platform or the nation e-commerce platform? But now I think that how can we, if we can do the CLMV3 e-commerce platform, we can push all in our products, agriculture, or many things in this platform, and we can recruit about all the SME or the big corporate on together. That's big enough to do the platform, to the e-commerce platform, and we can distribute our products around the world. Even though you think about the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, right? For the China, they built about the train, right? From Kunming, right? Past Myanmar to Thai. Also another route from the Kunming to Laos to Thai, and then to Vietnam to Cambodia and to Thai. Why we don't just lead this route to trade up? Not afraid that also of Thai people are afraid of the BRI. No. You cannot afraid that. You just think about that. How can we use this route that China invest a lot of how many billion, right, for this one to trade up? They connect with 67 countries around the world. We have a lot of good here, a lot of culture, a lot of product here. We are like the worlds of the production area, production base. You can see for the Vietnam, because we got a lot, right, for the investment about the FDI. They attract a lot, or even though in Thailand. So I think we need to share each other, sharing economy, and we are the parts of the world. It's not like about the emerging or the developing country anymore. We need to go together. And also, I think it's quite good for us to have to take this advantage time.
Right, I totally agree. Thank you so much for that. That we are actually a region that complements each other very well, and that's actually our strength, one of our strengths, and it gives us opportunities as well. But just to ask you more specific on the trends, because as WHA, you've seen investments coming into Thailand or to Vietnam, that you now have a new estate there in northern Vietnam. what are the industries that are up and coming, that are really coming into our region, last year or this year or for the future?
From us, still the first one from our sector is still the auto part. Since Thailand, especially for our industrial asset, we are like about the Detroit of Asia. From our industrial asset, we have 10 industrial assets in Thailand. We have allowed 260 companies do about the auto sector. So that's why the question that you just asked Christian, so I want to ask him,
what do you think? As well.
Yeah, what do you think about EV car can replace the engine car? How many years? In 5 or 10 years, something. That's why our country they try to transform the business to like about to the aerospace hubs that we have the EEC area. Since we know what about the getting hop happen, but we need to create a plan for other adopting for the new technology something.
Right, because we hear a lot that China is undertaking its China 2025 program where they will be producing high technology products and services, actually 10 of them, that will be exportable to the world market within the year 2025. So, with the relocation of some of the Chinese companies to our region, I was wondering if any of the high-tech companies are there, but I hear from you that they're still mostly automotive and some aerospace.
So logistic. I just forget about the logistic.
Right.
The big move from China.
I see logistics.
And right now, China not only just think about the conventional or something for industry or something. Now we also discuss with them about how can do the science park in Thailand. How can do about high technology industrial asset in Thailand together. They also will invest there here with their technology company to invest here together with us. Since that's the pattern of the China, they go from the Shenzhen, that's one for the science park, something like this. And now they have maybe 100 science park in their country. And in the science park, they also have the big giant checks. And also they have incubator. The most important is incubator because they incubate the SME, they incubate the startup. That's why China is the most, have the number of the startup in the world right now. Yeah, all they do together nearly 40 years ago. Really amazing. So that's why we don't have one in Thailand. Well, then we have together in the CLMVT, we can share resource together, right? And we did the first one to do this one here.
Very good. Thank you so much for your views. We actually have a surprise panelist, the 5th panelist. Do you want to? Afterwards, okay. Actually, Kun Pim Chanok has something to share as well, which might be useful for all of us here. She has a list of products that could, benefit from the development of the value chain here. But Kun Pim Chanok will come a bit later because she would like to hear from us more on what are now you've outlined the opportunities, the different sectors that could really grow here. But what are the challenges? What are the challenges that you still see that exist in achieving those opportunities? So please feel free. I know you're holding the microphone very tightly, so please.
I think the main. I think so. There are 2 main challenges. Is basically the accessibility of that information, right? The process streamlining, which is part of it, and the part is. How easy we can make this accessible to the entrepreneurs or the companies. Because at the end of the day, as I said, Singapore is always a gold standard in terms of if you want to invest, it's a straightforward process. You fill it online, you get an approval, and you start the company next day. You don't need to pay probably first 3 years for the taxes. Is there a tax break? Is that right? Out at a certain point, yeah. So these are certain things that comes in picture, but they are playing they are at the background, but they're playing a big role in terms of getting any things done. So to me, when we look at the challenges, we need to really focus on few things and most value adding. I can give you a couple of examples, like especially we could get into the media agency where. If you see the quality of the advertisement that Thailand produces, it's fantastic. It's equal to any of the advertisement used to come from the US or Western, because when I worked for Mars, we always looked at the advertisement for pedigree coming from Western countries, and then we used to have a Thailand advertisement. And we choose at the end, now I can speak about it because I'm no more work with Mars, but we made the decision to go with Thailand ad for pedigree versus when we're working with Smart Heart as being our competition. So, I mean, and if you see, when we have this strength exist, now the challenge is we need to identify that strength. The challenge is not identifying that strength and really play on it. Now we know that's a strength. If you see the VFX, which is the animation movies, if you see any Bollywood, or there is only one company in India, which probably, Finding Nemo, those kind of companies they make. For a minute, it costs like $30,000 US. That's what it costs to give 1 minute of animation. So if you have that strength already exist in Thailand, why not really get that stuff ready, the skill, give that skills, and you can imagine how big it can get. So for me, the challenge is not only the processes and overall, but on cross-border things, which is obvious and interest of each country, but also to fail to understand and spend time on understanding your strength and really play strong on it. I think so that's holding us back as a big challenge for us. And once and when we said, let's take 3 projects at a time and make it a success to show that we can do it. If we take maybe 100 projects at a time, and of course, there are trade association by segment is going to be different, but we choose which segment is going to deliver the higher value for this sub-region. And if you take India as an example, if we as a sub-region started looking at the requirements, the way the world was looking at China, the way we start looking at India, I mean, the recent survey, our Prime Minister Modi, he talked about the new the survey from Niti Aayog just came in, and there was a target of $5 trillion. That is the target for 2019 that's coming up. So how we can play in that economy, that's something we need to extend. And the challenge is how we're going to connect those dots. So for me, there's a knowledge dot exist, and if we connect them at the right way, including taking some of the innovation point Douglas had mentioned about, without using the lot many resources, but delivering what we really need without having heavy capital investment, I think so that's the key. So you have to be very agile, you have to have a speed, and you need to be flexible. So you need to be adaptive to the situation. If you're going to be agile as cheetah, like the cheetah, and the size of elephant is going to move slower, but if you are the cheetah, agile, and the speed, that's what we want to be. And then you're going to be successful in being adaptive. So for me, connecting the knowledge dots, which exist there, but connecting them is something we need to work very closely. And challenges, do understand your strengths and play on it aggressively, understanding what the requirements of the market landscape outside.
Thank you. And one way to connect those knowledge dots, I think Douglas mentioned earlier, is the role of the trade associations that will be increasingly important in this very disruptive and fast, changing world, right? I mean, can you shed some light on, what Singapore has done, or what your federation has done to connect those knowledge dots for your members, for the SMEs, and to get
the
them up to
moral of the story is leave no money behind. That's the key.
Well, for a start, for the CLMVT in particular, we work very closely with the various Chamber of Commerce. So like Cambodia Chamber of Commerce, Laos Chamber of Commerce, Myanmar Chamber of Commerce, the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce, the Federation of Thai Industries. So all these actually built the relations. I think we can do a lot more to strengthen and deepen those relations and create a lot of opportunities. So I'd like to congratulate the Ministry of Commerce for putting this together, because we need more of such. Like what Professor Kishore mentioned yesterday, we need to really put it onto the table and put out the challenges and the differences and the things that we all are doing. Because without that conversation, we are all guessing what each party is doing. But through collaboration, very honest and deliberate conversations will come together to come with some very meaningful, purposeful, like what you have mentioned, small projects that we could do together. And once you achieve success on those small projects, then you could continue to build it and become larger. So you never know, like 10 years later, a CLMVT forum like this could become a global platform where global enterprises or global audience will come and want to be connected because they want to know about CLMVT. Just like how when we started, I'm actually representing Singapore in the ASEAN Business Council. We used to have only 1 day for our meeting, but now it becomes 2.5 days because we've got US ASEAN, China ASEAN, Canada ASEAN, UK ASEAN. Everybody wants to be connected. So therein lies that connectivity that you need to continue to build on. And it is a very deliberate, and you need to put effort into that. It is an opportunity, but at the end of the day, you need to put deliberate actions to push forward. So the TACs can definitely play a much more active role, not just within their diverse countries, but on these cross bilateral, multilateral platforms to build a lot more such forum for helping the small medium enterprises and the micro enterprises.
Right. Well, thank you for that. I agree that having forums like this, getting people together, getting to know each other better, does help. But Douglas, I just want to hear your practical views on what practically would we do. For example, you're the president of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation. So let's say we have a CLMVT Manufacturing Federation, that would provide knowledge and skills building or whatsoever to members. I mean, building from your experience from the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, what are the success factors? I mean, do we need to have a dedicated office, a group that focuses on something? What are the practical advice can you give?
Oh, I wouldn't dare to give practical advice. I just give my little thoughts on that. I think there's enough organizations and enough structure already as it is. So we don't just want to go and set up another committee and another, one of this. But how do we build more connectivity? And one of the areas that I may humbly suggest is really getting the youth in ASEAN and CLMVT to be aware of the importance of that connectivity and start building that culture. So maybe you could invite some youth into this forum. Could be undergrads or postgraduates that would want to be entrepreneurs, that want to be connected. They could be in various agencies as well. And start getting that journey into understanding and deepening the relations that they can have. There is I used to serve on Singapore National Youth Council. So we have this the ship from Nippon Maru that comes from Japan that have got the 10 ASEAN country youth that go onto that ship for about 40 days to get to know each other. I think we need more of this to get the youth to be connected and to have that narrative of the CLMVT and the whole ASEAN context.
Right, I see. And I know Douglas is also an Eisenhower Fellow, and he's been on this extended trips with Eisenhower Fellow from around the world. So he understands this importance of connecting people from different countries, different backgrounds really well. Chetan.
Let me build on this, Douglas. I mean, what you said is the connectivity. I think so. That's why the collaboration of educational institutes are such an important thing. Because somebody from Cambodia and Laos come and study in Thailand, there are going to be that natural ties. If he wants to start a business, it is going to pay you in 10 years for sure, but it is going to pay you big time. It's an ongoing soft power that we have to cash in. That's why what Burapha University is doing with Cambodian universities right now is huge. I mean, it looks tiny at this point, but it is going to pay huge dividends in the coming future. So exchange program between CLMVT with India, with Singapore universities, which is happening in certain things, but if we really decide as a Ministry of Commerce initiative and really send students up there, really understand the culture and the dynamics within the market, it's going to make it a successful entrepreneur eventually to them.
Yeah, human resource is actually one of the most important link in the value chain.
And exchange of skilled labor as well. That's a big capital.
Right. So another sector that Chetan has just pointed is the education sector that we could collaborate as well. Before going to back to Christian and Kun Jareeporn, I think Kun Pim Chanok would like to say a few things which would be very useful for the audience as well.
Hopefully. Yes.
Hopefully, yes,
Okay.
please, please.
I just want
Please,
to
you
take
wanna-
this
Uh-huh.
opportunity to pick up from what Mr. Chetan and Douglas has suggested, that we should have something collaborated, and we can start from small. So I want to show you the actual and concrete results that have come out of a CLMVT forum meeting 2 years ago. We have these are two products, Mr. Chetan, that has my office has initiated as a project. It's a mango juice and massage oil. These two products are developed together between Thailand and Cambodia, and with Myanmar and Thailand. Let's go back to the mango juice. The mango juice is called Linkage mango juice, and it uses mango from Cambodia. But Thailand has added value by helping to design the packaging, the branding, and we tested the market. But they don't have this slide, but I can read for you. Before we it's actually real products, and the patent is owned by my office. We did market research for the Chinese consumer who buy lots of fruit drinks from ASEAN, and 74% of the Chinese consumers said they like the certain taste of mango juice, 74, but 55% also like to have nice packaging. We also asked whether they like paper box or other kind of packaging. They prefer paper box, but I think when we were tested this product, it cost too much. Yeah? The Tetra Pak is not as cheap as one may think, so we opted to have a glass bottle instead. And other decision that affects consumer in China to buy mango juice is that they're not very price sensitive. 12% said that they like to buy cheap products only, but 44% said they would buy it if the taste is right. And lastly, we asked for the price, and this is not a Chinese market, but in Thailand, and about 40% of Thai consumer said if it's about 15 baht to 20 baht, then they will buy it. But 18% said they can pay up to 40 baht. So we did all this tested the product. Our consultant was the professor from the University of Thai Chamber of Commerce, and we were planning to distribute it today, but it was not made in enough quantity. I'm very sorry. So maybe next year you can have it. But this is already come with the tested the market. The consumer in Thailand and Cambodia likes it. We still hold the patent, but we plan to issue it to local community and cooperatives and social business in local areas, so that this would be a new product that can be developed and sold by Cambodian and for Thai cooperatives. Another product that we have undertaken is, this one is didn't pass the packaging design. I didn't like it much, but the product itself was good. This is a massaging oil made from Narake in Myanmar. With some other herbs in Thailand, and the University of Mae Fah Luang in Chiang Rai helped develop this the product. It still has to go through several testing of the market, but these are actual and real concrete results that. Okay, we're not going to make a CLMVT car soon. I'm sorry, Christian. Probably not, but maybe in my lifetime, yes, but not yet. But we start small, and we start with something that would answer to the needs of many local small farmers holder in several countries. So this year, we will still have 2 projects ongoing. One is develop beef processing, cutting meat to make steak to be sent to supermarket or 5-star hotel. This is a project between Thailand and Cambodia, but can also be with Laos. And with Myanmar, we have another project on preserving seafood to be sent to hotel in Phetchaburi and Prachuap Khiri Khan, and also to Myanmar as well. So these are the kind of ideas, the small ideas that we can work together. For this year, I hope to find some products that can be undertaken in 3 countries, maybe not only 2 countries. But just thank you for your time, and we hope that this would give the panelists the encouragement that yes, we can do something.
Yes,
you know,
can.
maybe it's not big, but it is concrete.
Thank you so much, Director Pinch. You know, those are very good examples. Coming back to the point that, following what you said just now, that there are many opportunities, but what are the challenges that you still see for our region in producing, car parts or services and coping with this decarbonization and digitalization?
Maybe just tagging along with what some of the colleagues have mentioned in terms of focus. I think one of the big topics that we are facing with is that every country wants to do everything. Everything in the S-curve, everything needs to be there, and everything needs to be far ahead in a short period of time. And I would also want to question whether that is actually possible for all and everyone to achieve. So a certain higher degree of focusing would, I think, be maybe helpful at that point in time to allow for more actual investments than to go into the more focused areas as well. Then at the same time, I believe I mentioned earlier that technology is moving very fast, and you've got some big players around you as well. And when we look at certain industries, automotive is one, but there are others which are very investment intensive, then the investments, big investments, will happen in very few areas and regions. But I think then there is an opportunity that especially niche models, niche technologies that are required will have peaks in requirements. So if you can focus on flexibility as well with the certain parts of industry, I think this is important. And this brings me to the parts industry in CLMVT in particular. So I think here we've seen really a big jump ahead in terms of professionalism within the automotive parts industry. In our case of BMW, we've established international purchasing offices, yes, based here in Thailand, but sourcing all over the region, not for our production facilities in the region, but actually for our main production facilities overseas. And that again, for me, reiterates the point that when we think about policy development, it must not always be in the end product facilitation and facilities here, but to promote SME of all size, actually to establish themselves in a very solid environment. And now that probably would bring one of my third, fourth point is that solid environment means regulatory volatility, stable regulatory environment, so no volatility or less volatility, I guess, in terms of our environment that we're in, fast, administrative eased processes in establishing, mainly just to be able to react fastly to big tankers moving left, right, and center in our region or even in different regions. Maybe last point in terms of automotive industry and fast-moving technologies nowadays is very difficult to establish exactly where technological advancement is going. For example, in automotive transitioning towards electrification. And therefore, being more confident that there is no need to be too prescriptive exactly in requirements in 5 years, 7 years ahead, but being less prescriptive, but being confident that the openness and the ease of actually establishing investment bases here will drive investors to set up their schemes here and really mobilize foreign investment to follow, but also to promote local development of SMEs in the region, CLMVT as well.
Right. So flexibility is very important in this fast-moving environment as well for both large companies and SMEs as well as you mentioned. And of course, having a stable regulatory environment does help a lot. So we can come back to that in the last round where we can hear your views on, how would you think the challenges could be overcome. But first, I'd like to move on to Kun Jareeporn on. So what do you see as the challenges in having a successful value chain?
For the challenges of your trade and investment linkage between CLMVT and beyond, we talk a lot about the seamless connectivities. We talk also about the pen, as you said, that we have too many pens, right? And we don't have time to talk about the beautiful word anymore. Seamless connectivity, blah, 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 even with the pen. We have too many pens right now. Before I prepare for the information to study, to speak here, wow, I got a lot of information. How many that we have? How many pens? I guess we don't have enough time right now. The one thing, the challenge is implement it, do it, and done it. Otherwise, you just talk. No action anymore. I think this should be all the country. We need to set the team, as called the dream team or just like adventure team, to make it reality. Not just like about the pen. And I think that it should be the very important part for the private sector and government sector need be to the collaboration together, not only for the government. Because from my point of view, support that the government has a lot of meetings, you have a lot of meetings with Mr. something, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not sure that how can the corporate like us know what you talk about, what you think about, what you say about. Sometimes we need to communicate about this part and just the challenge is make it happen, not just talk anymore. Don't have time to talk anymore. Thank you.
So the key challenge is implementation, is to take action at the moment. That's very practical, and I think Chetan, you share that view as well. We were discussing during lunch, and I think from the private sector point of view is they want to get things going, right? They want to get things going, and if the government can help, that will be wonderful. Keep the regulatory environment stable, that's wonderful, and they can take charge of their business going forward. I will open up for questions, and if there are any questions, because I think we have 25 minutes left before the central bank governor comes. So if you have any questions, please feel free. I think the system here is to just raise your hand or stand up, and a microphone will be delivered to you. So that's the plan. Any questions? Any questions that you would like to ask, or any comments that you would like to share? I know you didn't have a chance to to ask any questions earlier this morning. So if there aren't any questions now yet, I'll give you some more time to think, and then we'll go. Chetan, would you like to add something?
Just one thing, probably, we spoke about many big projects, but when it comes to the smaller SMEs, that's where it makes a lot of difference in terms of your GDP, because there are many of them. I just wanted to share one example. When we went to Chandragan before I just came over here, that we talked about Chandragan is very famous for jewelry. So when we specifically talk about agility, being agile and faster and speed, the quick business I can think of is basically there are, what are the regions around, especially if I think about India, because being an Indian, I know that the ladies from India would love to buy jewelry. So a simple thing is how you're going to get the ladies from India to come to Chandragan and let them see the jewelry and buy it. Because they are big on weddings in terms of jewelry. So that's the way I will suggest to think. Another, I can give you an example. When you read about different things, there is a lot much. India is big on infrastructure. The new government right now, which is their second term, they are focusing a lot on infrastructure. And if you see in the infrastructure, thousands of kilometers, there's a divider, and there are plants, or the decorative plants are there. So next thing you should be thinking that, of course, Thailand and other markets, CLMVT's markets are more agriculture-based. Can we develop the plant nursery and supply these in lakhs and thousands and millions? Because huge, every person from, if it's going to be poor or middle class or very rich, everybody going to have a plants at home. So why can't that can be a full-time business when you have, all you need is a soil, a plastic bag, assuming that is government is allowing you, because in India it's not allowed the plastic anymore. But, it's just a seed. So it's there. You just put the plastic, the shade, and you can make the plants and actually export it to any markets in the world. And which is probably, I can give you as a businessman, there there is a more than 200% margin in the plant nursery. I can give you that because I'm doing that right now.
Your group is doing that
so
now.
I'm happy to share my margins. Nobody will do that here, but I'm happy to do that. But all I'm trying to say, being agile and being quick on your toes in terms of reading the markets and joining those dots and creating the business out of it, as Douglas said, without investing much money is going to be the key for success. Of course, the big organization who have a lot of capital, they will find the way through. But who are going to be struggling and need the most information? The new entrepreneurs and the young people who's trying to make their mark. Yeah.
Coming from India, Chetan, you've mentioned some of the opportunities that CLMVT could have within the jewelry is one, right? I mean movies is another. I mean, what others do you see? I mean, from India or vice versa, from here to India.
I mean, especially the best part to think about is food because everybody loves trying different food, and I think there is a lot much. I'm seeing that DITP is trying hard to get the Thai restaurant cuisines in India, and it's picking up pretty much. There is a similarity in terms of cooking, but it's a different flavor. So I think food comes first, which is the easier option without thinking too much. But also I think is the biggest, opportunity right now is the infrastructure. And why I say that specifically for Singapore as well and Thailand. Why? Because there is a lot of disposable income in India at this point of time. Of course, because of the GST and the demonetization, there is a bit of slack right now in the market. But there are people who are ready to invest into the great expensive villas and expensive houses. For example, if you see a Trump Tower which was built in Delhi, it was sold in less than a month, which is cost like $1 million, which is huge for India. It's common for Singapore, but it's huge for India. So I mean, there is money exists. So infrastructure for airport building. So there is a new airport in Pune was actually allotted to Italian Thai company. So there is already trade happening. So it's all about. I believe it's big on pharma, big on medicines or medical infrastructure, and agriculture and food, specifically processed food as well. It could be dried fruits and overall. You're just getting the right buyer and the right price. I think it could be better. So I think this is the main I can think of from the India side. And of course, I talked about the VFX, which is the most lucrative business getting into animation, which is about movie making, which is around a minute $30,000 US. That's what I see from the newspaper. So.
That's right. There's so many opportunities out there. It's just up to us if we can get our act together and take action. We have another 5 minutes because we're going to do a little break before the central bank governor comes at 3. Are there any questions that anybody would like to? Okay, there's a question, please. Can you please
Good afternoon.
tell us?
I'm P.K. Dal from India, from Bombay. And we see a lot of talking that what opportunities are there for the Indian market. As my friend just said that the infrastructure is growing up. I absolutely agree with him. But at the same time, I have been doing business with Thailand for quite some time, and we are not been able to compete the Chinese market. Even now, the government has introduced a lot of extra taxes, anti-dumping duty from Chinese products, but still we are lacking far behind where prices is concerned. And every time we look at importing anything from Thailand, the price is just not competitive. How do you take a stand that we could compete, especially in the refrigeration industry, in the air conditioning industry, which is a very, very huge market? If there's a development, these are the products which are going to be there in the Indian market. So what would the panel suggest for improvement of pricing? Even though being an ASEAN country, we have the concessions, but still we are outpriced. So if somebody can guide on that, I'd be very thankful.
Anybody want to share your views on the pricing?
Sir, thank you. I'll try to take a stab at it, and this is personally my opinion. So usually, I mean, you specifically said probably 3 or 4 different things. One is about, is it delivering what the product you're making and what China's product is delivering? Is the functionality is the same? There are a few clarification questions will come. Second is basically the price. Is this something you can do on the cost side? probably is that something you can reduce? Or the third is if you increase the price, will the customer is willing to pay? Is it delivering any extra additional services? So to me, it's absolutely right, because the scale comes in, China always going to win, because there is an economic scale always comes into picture. But to be honest, it's very difficult to answer, except you look at your cost and is other markets who are willing to buy at that cost. But to be honest, specifically when it comes to the manufacturing sector, it's all the margin game. It's volume and the margin. Margins are going to be very narrow. If you go to any Tata Steel or anything, you go for Maruti car parts, all are going to be all about the thin margin and the big volume. So the best is, I'll say that, see if you can compete, otherwise diversification is the key. Because there are certain things we know it's tough, but we can't deny them. It exists. And it's in front of you. If we can beat them, great. We can show them we are better than them one or other way. Because when I'm working with Med Johnson, there are other different products as well. But Med Johnson is probably 30% more on Infalac, which is probably a 30% more premium. So we came up with the claims which is potentially going to prove the worth of our product. And physically, there is a difference for it. And if we can't make it, there is no value differentiation. So then unfortunately, probably it is going to be a bit struggle to sell it and go to that lower cost if you can't cut the cost. So
if you can't fight them, join them. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
you can't fight them.
This is the best, sir, I can think of from my experience. But
it's difficult because
I don't know what I can do the valuation that part, but specifically if the consumer is ready to pay for that valuation, and then only it's worth it, and not from manufacturer's point of view, from the consumer's point of view. It could be from convenience perspective, it could be from the services, the maintenance perspective, that we will give you the free service after that, give you 30 days credit. I don't know what's going to hit it. This is the best I can think of.
This is very product specific, right? It's product by product, right? Any other questions before Kun Jareeporn has another point you'd like to make? Oh, yes.
I'm here.
Where
right at the end of the room.
Oh, hi.
Right.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Patara from the Balagar and Company. The panel touched a lot on the concept of being, fast-paced, moving, and being agile. I was just wondering, how can we move from the concept of being, agility towards become more sustainability? Yep. How can we, ensure the prosperity and FDI is coming to this sub-regional that will remain with us in the future? Yes.
Great. And if you want to take that, how can you be agile and sustainable?
So currently, with regards to CMLVT, I guess when we talk about sustainable agility, it starts within CMLVT itself. And I think here we have seen incredibly good intentions for collaboration and for sub-regional openness. But I think there is still room for improvement in terms of opening up really the markets to each other in a clear belief towards free trade, giving a head footstep towards this sub-region. And I think this free trade is a prerequisite really then for the agility and the speed that is needed for the industry players on SME levels in particular to be able to really flourish and foster here in the region.
Thank you for that. So I think we're just almost out of time, and Kun Jareeporn has one last point.
Yeah. I just would like to talk about the sanctions, CLMVT competition. It's just we need to think about the 4 areas: embrace technology. Because of now, we need to improve our productions and service area, right? And also connect in the global productions network. We cannot stand alone. And the second thing is really important, to enhance the education. We need to reskill and upskill. Because of now, we don't work with the manual anymore. We talk about the work with the robot, right? So we need to reskill and upskill. Otherwise, the problems of our workers. We all say like that, okay, we have the best skill in this regional, but right now don't have the time for skill anymore. It's like knowledgeable. So we need to reskill and upskill. And also increase about digital literacy, right? The third one, government support. We need a lot of government support, otherwise we cannot do anything, right? About especially for eliminate about the problems. Regulation something, when we invest in other country, and a lot of problems. So, since each country don't have the same regulator or something, right? Lots of raw something. We have problem for us to invest in other country. So if we can make the standard, I think we need it, right? And the last thing, invest for the future. Invest for the future. We don't invest for the back to the future anymore. We need to think about this thing. That's one that we can make about the strengthen the CLMVT competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One last note, Douglas.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in because all this actually comes across to an opportunity for CLMVT and also ASEAN to come up with a harmonized intellectual property framework. Because at the end of the day, CLMVT and ASEAN needs to understand and utilize intellectual property in a smart way to build their business model as we continue to innovate. Because while you innovate, you need to protect. And just now you talk about the patents for the mango juice, but there are many things that you continue to innovate. And I just wanted to share that this year, I actually serve on the Intellectual Property Office Singapore. And this year, we have actually launched, usually artificial intelligence protection takes 24 months. But artificial intelligence type of models actually evolve very quickly. So we have actually, from 24 months, been able to do it in 6 months. Wow. Because last time you need people to read through, but now you use artificial intelligence to do that. So it's an example or application of how we could use artificial intelligence to help us and how we could actually share and collaborate much more effectively together as a region to build this into a harmonized framework. Because for the longest time, Arun just came in. We have been talking about the NTBs and NTMs and how do we build all this ASEAN single window. We are still on that journey, but I think for the intellectual property portion, we can move a lot faster and we can take this as a leadership on the global stage. Right, Arun? We're pushing for NTB, NTM for a very long time, right? That's your pet peeve.
It's wonderful to end with that positive note that we can actually leverage new technologies now, for our collaboration, which could be faster and more effective as well. Thank you so much all for being here with us in this session. I would like to thank all the panelists again for sharing their thoughts and their wisdom with us. Can we please give them a very big hand again? Thank you so much. And I would like to give this floor back to the MC.